Yeah, it's disgusting. They need to do something about it.
It is a problem getting bigger by the day.
9 weeks of strikes by bin collectors over pay have left the streets teeming with trash.
Imagine a city where rubbish piles up for weeks, rats thrive in mountains of waste, and the British Army is called in to manage the crisis. This isn't some dystopian fiction, it's Birmingham right now under Labour control. But did you hear that crucial detail on the BBC? In a stunning display of bias by omission, the BBC's 3-hour interview with Birmingham City Council leader John Cotton never once mentioned the Labour Party's responsibility for this public health emergency. As local elections approach, this silence speaks volumes about whose interests our national broadcaster truly serves. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The BBC has always prided itself on delivering impartial news, but their recent coverage of Birmingham's waste crisis reveals a disturbing pattern of selective reporting.
Yeah, it's disgusting. They need to do something about it.
It is a problem getting bigger by the day.
9 weeks of strikes by bin collectors over pay have left the streets teeming with trash.
That should concern every licence fee payer in Britain. When the nation's public broadcaster dedicates 3 hours of airtime to interview Birmingham City Council leader John Cotton about a crisis so severe that military intervention was required, you'd expect certain fundamental facts to be mentioned. Yet throughout the entire programme, the BBC's Today show on Radio 4 deliberately avoided a crucial piece of information. Birmingham City Council is controlled by the Labour Party. Think about that for a moment. 3 hours of discussion about a crisis crippling Britain's second largest city. And not once did the presenters mention which political party bears responsibility for the catastrophe. This wasn't some trivial detail lost in the scramble of live broadcasting.
Rats that the size of cats, literally the size of cats, and yeah, loads of flies and...
It's just rancid.
That's the nicest way to put it. It stinks. The walls of Birmingham stink.
It represents a calculated editorial decision that fundamentally alters how listeners understand the situation. The consequences of this bin strike have been devastating for Birmingham residents. Since March 11th, mountains of waste have accumulated across the city, creating serious public health hazards. Rat infestations have exploded, disease risks have multiplied, and citizens have been left wondering why their council seems incapable of resolving a dispute that's fundamentally of their own making.
17,000 tonnes of rubbish has built up on the streets of Birmingham after hundreds of bin workers went on strike. Is bringing in extra vehicles crewed by agency staff, but striking workers are stopping them going anywhere fast.
Yet the BBC, in its wisdom, decided that identifying who's actually responsible for managing this crisis wasn't information the public needed to know. What makes this omission particularly suspicious is its timing. With local elections on the horizon, voters across Britain are evaluating which parties deserve their support. The BBC's decision to shield Labour from association with this failure looks less like journalistic oversight and more like political protection. This isn't about partisan preference. It's about a broadcaster failing in its fundamental duty to provide citizens with the context they need to make informed democratic choices. Shadow Culture Secretary Stuart Andrew didn't mince words when he characterised the BBC's approach. He called it a clear case of the BBC protecting the Labour Party from legitimate criticism, emphasising that it's Labour's disastrous management of Birmingham that got the city into this mess in the first place.
Acceptable. I fully support the council in declaring it a major incident to resolve the situation, and we'll put in whatever additional support is needed.
It's horrendous. It really is all-encompassing. You see it wherever you go across Birmingham.
His assessment strikes at the heart of what's happening. A broadcaster funded by public money appears to be running interference for one political party at a critical moment. The details of the strike itself further highlight the council's mismanagement. When Unite, the Waste Workers Union, was presented with the council's latest offer, they rejected it with overwhelming force. 97% voted against the proposal, with a solid 60% turnout. As Unite described it, the offer was totally inadequate. The workers aren't simply being difficult, they're facing actual pay cuts while the Labour-controlled council seems incapable of negotiating in good faith. This crisis stems directly from the council's decision to cut waste recycling roles and reduce pay for refuse workers. These are political choices with real consequences, yet the BBC's coverage sanitised these facts from public view. When a national broadcaster interviews a council leader about mountains of rotting garbage without mentioning their party affiliation, that's not balanced reporting, it's narrative manipulation. The BBC's response to criticism further underscores the problem. They claim they offered a robust interview and covered all sides, but this ignores the fundamental issue. A robust interview that strategically omits crucial context isn't journalism, it's public relations. Birmingham residents deserve to know that Labour councillors have been making the decisions that led to this crisis, especially as they prepare to cast their votes in upcoming elections. What we're witnessing in this case isn't just poor journalism, it represents what critics rightfully call narrative control. By severing the connection between Labour and the bin crisis in their coverage, the BBC effectively shields one party from accountability while denying citizens the full picture. This pattern of selective reporting undermines the broadcaster's claim to impartiality and raises profound questions about whether the BBC functions as a genuine public service or as an institutional actor with its own political agenda. The bin strike itself continues to cause misery across Birmingham. When garbage sits uncollected for weeks, it doesn't just create eyesores, it creates genuine public health emergencies. Disease vectors multiply, vulnerable populations face increased risks, and the quality of life deteriorates for everyone. The council's failure to resolve this dispute quickly reflects a fundamental governance failure that voters have every right to consider when evaluating Labour's performance. Let's be crystal clear. This Birmingham bin crisis coverage isn't merely sloppy journalism. It's a direct violation of the BBC's own editorial guidelines on impartiality. Their guidelines explicitly mandate presenting news with due accuracy and impartiality, reflecting a range of significant views and perspectives. By deliberately concealing Labour's governance role, while mountains of rubbish contaminate Britain's second largest city, the BBC has chosen narrative control over balanced reporting. As licence fee payers funding this institution, we deserve a broadcaster that holds power to account regardless of political affiliation. The BBC's actions amount to what experts call bias by omission, deliberately excluding crucial information to manipulate public understanding, especially with elections approaching. This isn't public service, it's propaganda by omission,